The planet called New Eden was beautiful. It floated in the darkness of space like a blue and green jewel. 12,000 humans lived there. They had farms and schools and small towns. Children played in the open fields. Old people sat on porches and watched the twin suns set every evening. It was a peaceful place, a quiet place, the kind of place where people went to start new lives and raise families, far from the busy center of human civilization. Commander Sarah Chen had been stationed at New Eden for 3 years. She was in charge of the small defense garrison, 20 soldiers, 2 patrol ships. It was not much, but New Eden did not need much. The planet was located in a quiet sector of space. No enemies nearby, no threats worth worrying about. Sarah spent most of her days doing paperwork and making sure her soldiers stayed sharp with training exercises. On the morning everything changed, Sarah was drinking coffee in her small office. She was reading a report about a broken water pump in the eastern settlement when her communication device started beeping. It was a priority alert. She frowned and answered it. "Commander Chen, we have unknown contacts entering the system," said Lieutenant Park, her second-in-command. His voice was calm, but there was tension underneath it. Sarah put down her coffee. "How many contacts?" 47 ships, Commander. They just appeared from hyperspace. They are not responding to our hails. Their ship designs do not match any species in our database." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. Unknown ships, no communication. This was bad. "Sound the alert! Get everyone to the shelters! I want our patrol ships in the air now!" She ran to the command center. The room was small, just a few screens and communication stations. Lieutenant Park was already there, his face lit by the blue glow of the display screens. On the main screen, Sarah could see the unknown ships. They were strange-looking, long and thin, like needles made of dark metal. They moved in perfect formation. "Still no response to our messages," Park said. "They are heading directly for the planet." Sarah made a decision. Open all channels, broadcast on every frequency. She took a deep breath and spoke clearly. "Unknown vessels, this is Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. You have entered Terran space. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. We mean you no harm, but you must respond." Silence. The needle ships kept coming. "Send the emergency signal to Earth Command," Sarah ordered. "Tell them we have a potential hostile contact. Request immediate assistance." The message was sent. But Earth was far away. Help would take time. Too much time. The first attack came without warning. One moment the needle ships were still approaching. The next moment, bright beams of energy shot from their fronts. The beams hit the ground near the eastern settlement. Sarah watched on the screen as buildings exploded into fire and dust. She heard screaming over the communication channels. "They are attacking civilians," Park said. His voice was shaking now. "They went straight for the civilian areas." Sarah grabbed the communication device. "All units, engage the enemy, protect the civilians. Get as many people to the underground shelters as possible." Her 2 patrol ships rose into the sky. They were small craft, built for scouting and light combat. They were not designed to fight 47 warships. But her pilots did not hesitate. They flew straight at the enemy formation, firing their weapons. Sarah watched the battle on her screens. Her pilots were brave. They dodged and weaved through enemy fire. They managed to damage 2 of the needle ships. But it was not enough. It could never be enough. A bright flash on the screen told her that one of her ships was gone. Then another flash took the second one. The needle ships continued their attack. They were systematic. They moved across the planet's surface, burning everything: towns, farms, forests. They left nothing but fire and ash behind them. Sarah tried to organize an evacuation. She sent her soldiers to help people reach the shelters. But the enemy was too fast, too thorough. The shelters were hit one by one. Sarah listened to the communication channels as voices went silent. One settlement after another. One shelter after another. In her command center, Sarah made one final recording. Her hands were steady even though she knew she was going to die. This is Commander Sarah Chen of New Eden Colony. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. 47 ships. They have destroyed most of our settlements. Casualties are... She paused. Casualties are total. If anyone receives this message, please send it to Earth Command. Tell them what happened here. Tell them we did not surrender. We fought until the end. Tell my family I love them. She pressed send. The message shot into space, traveling at the speed of light toward the nearest relay station. The last thing Sarah Chen saw was a bright light coming through her window. 2 weeks later, the survey ship Wanderer entered the New Eden system on a routine supply run. Captain Marcus Webb was looking forward to a quiet visit. He had friends on New Eden. He was planning to have dinner with the Chen family. Sarah had promised to cook her famous spicy noodles. What he found instead was death. The planet was still there, but it was wrong. Where there had been green continents and blue oceans, now there was only gray and black. The atmosphere was thick with smoke and ash. No signals came from the surface, no lights, no signs of life. Marcus felt his heart turn to ice. Scan the entire planet. Look for survivors. His crew worked in horrified silence. Hours passed. The scans found nothing. No human life signs anywhere on New Eden. 12,000 people. Gone. Just gone. They found the wreckage of the 2 patrol ships drifting in orbit. They found Sarah Chen's final message stored in the emergency beacon. Marcus listened to it 3 times. Each time he felt more sick, more angry. Get me a line to Earth Command, he said quietly. Priority 1, absolute emergency. The message traveled across the stars. It passed through relay stations and communication hubs. It reached Earth in just under 2 hours. And when it arrived, it set off a chain of events that would shake the entire galaxy. Admiral James Morrison was 63 years old. He had served in the Terran Navy for 40 years. He had seen combat. He had lost friends and ships, but nothing had prepared him for the images that appeared on his screen that morning. New Eden, a thriving colony, 12,000 innocent people, burned to ash by an unknown enemy. Morrison did not shout. He did not curse. He simply sat very still for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and called the president of the Terran Federation. "Madam President," he said, "we have a situation." Within hours, the highest leaders of humanity gathered in the war room beneath the Federation capital. President Elena Vasquez sat at the head of the table. Around her were admirals, generals, intelligence chiefs, and political advisors. They watched Sarah Chen's final message together. They saw the images of the dead planet. "Who did this?" President Vasquez asked. Her voice was controlled, but her eyes were hard. "We do not know yet, Madam President," said Intelligence Director Yuki Tanaka. "The ship designs match nothing in our records. We have reached out to all our allied species. None of them recognize the attackers." 47 ships destroyed an entire colony, Admiral Morrison said. "They targeted civilians first. They made no attempt to communicate. This was not a military action. This was extermination." The room was silent. Everyone understood what that word meant. "What are our options?" the president asked. Admiral Morrison pulled up a holographic display. It showed the location of New Eden and the surrounding space. "We have already dispatched a battle group to secure the system and search for evidence. We are scanning all nearby sectors for any sign of these ships. When we find them, we will need to make a decision about how to respond." A young advisor spoke up. "Perhaps we should try diplomacy first. We do not know why they attacked. Maybe there was a misunderstanding." Morrison turned to look at him. "They killed 12,000 civilians, men, women, and children. They burned them alive without a word of warning or explanation. What is there to misunderstand?" The advisor fell silent. President Vasquez stood up. She walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives, unaware that somewhere in the galaxy, an enemy had just murdered 12,000 of their fellow humans. "We built the Terran Federation to protect our people," she said quietly. "Every citizen, every colony, no matter how small, no matter how far away. That is the promise we made. New Eden was under our protection. We failed them." She turned back to face the room. "We will not fail them again. Find these attackers, find out who they are and where they come from, and when you do, bring me a plan to make them pay for what they have done." The investigation took 3 months. 3 months of searching through debris, 3 months of scanning space, 3 months of reaching out to every species humanity had ever contacted. Finally, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The Veltari were a trading species. They were small, furry creatures who traveled throughout the galaxy buying and selling goods. They knew everyone and everything. When Terran intelligence contacted them about the strange needle ships, the Veltari merchants went pale. "The Kreth," said the Veltari ambassador, his voice trembling. "You are describing the Kreth Dominion. Tell us everything," Director Tanaka demanded. The Veltari told them. The Kreth were an ancient species. They had ruled a large empire on the far side of the galaxy for thousands of years. They believed themselves to be the only true intelligent species in the universe. All other species were either servants or pests to be exterminated. "They have destroyed dozens of species over the millennia," the ambassador explained. "They find a new species, study them briefly, then wipe them out. They keep the planets for themselves. They call it purification. They believe they are doing the universe a favor by removing lesser beings." "Why have we never heard of them before?" Tanaka asked. "Because they have never come this far before. Their empire is vast, but far away. Your species must have attracted their attention somehow. Perhaps one of your exploration ships wandered too close to their space. Perhaps they simply decided it was time to expand in this direction. How strong are they?" The ambassador's large eyes filled with fear. "Very strong. Their fleet numbers in the millions of ships. Their technology is advanced. Many species have tried to fight them. None have survived." This information was brought back to Earth. The leaders of humanity studied it carefully. The Kreth Dominion, millions of ships, ancient technology, a history of genocide. Some advisors suggested caution. Perhaps humanity could hide. Perhaps they could negotiate. Perhaps they could offer tribute and be left alone. Admiral Morrison rejected all of these suggestions. "They killed 12,000 of our people to send us a message. The message is clear. They do not want to negotiate. They do not want tribute. They want us dead. All of us. Every man, woman, and child. They will not stop until humanity is extinct." "Then what do you suggest?" President Vasquez asked. Morrison stood tall. His gray eyes were like steel. "We hit them first. We hit them so hard that they never recover. We show them and every other species in this galaxy that humanity does not bow. Humanity does not beg. When you kill our people, we come for you. Not with 47 ships, with everything we have." The president was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "How long will it take to mobilize the fleet?" 6 months to gather our forces. Another 2 months to reach Kreth space. Madam President, I am recommending a full mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, everything. How many ships is that? Morrison smiled grimly. 700,000 warships. The entire Terran Navy, plus whatever our allies are willing to contribute. The number hung in the air. 700,000 ships. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. It would leave Earth and all the colonies with minimal defense. It was a massive gamble. If they failed, humanity would have nothing left to protect itself. But if they succeeded, the galaxy would learn a lesson it would never forget. President Vasquez looked around the room. She saw fear on some faces, determination on others, but she saw no one arguing for surrender, no one suggesting they abandon their dead to history and hope the Kreth forgot about them. "Do it," she said. "Mobilize the fleet. Every ship we have. The Kreth wanted to send us a message. Let us send them one in return." The order went out. Across human space, factories started working overtime. Shipyards that had been building civilian vessels switched to warships. Training bases called up every reserve soldier. Scientists worked around the clock to upgrade weapons and shields. And on New Eden, the ashes of 12,000 humans waited silently for justice. Humanity was going to war. The mobilization of the Terran Navy was the largest military operation in human history. For 6 months, the entire species worked toward a single goal: revenge. Ships came from everywhere: battle cruisers from the Sol Defense Fleet, destroyers from the outer colonies, carriers from the frontier worlds. Old vessels were pulled from retirement and upgraded with new weapons. New ships rolled off assembly lines at a pace never seen before. Every factory that could produce military equipment was working day and night. Admiral James Morrison stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Terran dreadnought Retribution. He watched as ships gathered in formation around him. There were so many that they looked like a swarm of metal insects filling the darkness of space. Each one carried humans ready to fight, ready to die if necessary. His second-in-command, Vice Admiral Diana Park, joined him at the window. She was the daughter of Lieutenant Park, who had died defending New Eden alongside Commander Chen. When she heard about her father's death, she had requested immediate transfer to the combat fleet. Morrison had made her his second without hesitation. 700,000 ships, Diana said softly. "I never thought I would see anything like this." "Neither did I," Morrison admitted. "But then, I never thought I would see an entire colony murdered. The universe keeps surprising us." "Will it be enough?" Morrison turned to look at her. Diana was young for a vice admiral, only 38 years old, but she had her father's steady eyes and her mother's fierce determination. "The Kreth have millions of ships, but they are spread across a vast empire. They cannot concentrate all their forces in one place. We can. We will hit them fast and hard before they know what is happening. And if we fail, then humanity will fall, but we will take a lot of them with us. And future species will know that humans did not go quietly into the night." The fleet began its journey toward Kreth space. 700,000 ships traveling together through hyperspace. The journey would take 2 months. During that time, the crews trained constantly. They studied everything known about the Kreth, their tactics, their weapons, their weaknesses. The Kreth were powerful, but they were also arrogant. They had never faced a serious challenge. For thousands of years, they had crushed every species they encountered with ease. They expected humanity to be the same, easy prey. Another civilization to add to their list of exterminated species. They were going to be very surprised. On the Kreth homeworld of Vexar Prime, High Commander Thrak reviewed reports from the human sector. The extermination fleet he had sent to New Eden had completed its mission successfully. 1 human colony destroyed. 12,000 lesser beings purified. A good start. Thrak was ancient by human standards. He had lived for over 600 years. He had personally overseen the destruction of 17 species. Humans would be the 18th. He expected no difficulty. His scouts reported that humans had a navy of less than 1 million ships. Impressive for such a young species, but nothing compared to the Kreth war machine. "When shall we send the main fleet to finish them?" asked his aide, a younger Kreth named Vrex. "There is no rush," Thrak said dismissively. "Let them panic. Let them try to prepare their defenses. It will make no difference. In a few months, we will send a proper extermination fleet. 2 million ships should be enough to wipe them out completely. The Council agrees with this timeline. The Council does what I tell them. These humans are not worth our full attention. They are just another primitive species clinging to life in an uncaring universe. Soon they will be gone, and the Kreth will claim their worlds. Thrak returned to his other duties. He had an empire to run. The humans could wait. He did not know that 700,000 of their ships were already on their way. He did not know that humanity had just spent 6 months doing nothing but preparing to destroy everything he had ever built. By the time he found out, it would be too late. The Terran fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Kreth territory. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the tactical display. The first target was a Kreth military outpost. According to intelligence, it was defended by about 2,000 ships. "All ships report ready for battle," Diana announced. Morrison nodded. "Begin the attack. Show no mercy." 700,000 ships surged forward. The Kreth defenders saw them coming but could not believe their sensors. So many ships. Where had they come from? How was this possible? The battle lasted less than an hour. The Kreth fought bravely, but they were outnumbered 350 to 1. Their ships were torn apart by concentrated fire from hundreds of human vessels. Their stations were reduced to floating debris. Their crews died without ever understanding what had hit them. When it was over, Morrison sent a message to the Kreth using their own communication frequencies. "This is Admiral James Morrison of the Terran Federation. You killed 12,000 of our people on New Eden. You thought we were weak. You thought we would be easy prey. You were wrong. We are coming for you, all of you. There will be no negotiation. There will be no surrender. There will only be justice." The message spread across the Kreth communication network. Within hours, every Kreth commander in the Empire had heard it. Within days, panic began to set in. High Commander Thrak received the news of the outpost's destruction with disbelief. "How many ships?" he demanded. "Our sensors counted over 700,000 vessels before they were destroyed," his aide reported. "The attack lasted less than 1 hour. There were no survivors." Thrak felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. Impossible. "The humans cannot have that many ships. Our intelligence was clear." "Perhaps our intelligence was wrong, High Commander." Thrak slammed his fist on the table. "Mobilize the home fleet. Every ship within 3 days of Vexar Prime. We will crush these humans before they can advance further." But as reports continued to come in, Thrak realized the situation was worse than he thought. The human fleet was not advancing in a straight line. They had split into multiple groups. Each group was attacking different targets simultaneously. Kreth outposts were falling one after another. Military bases, supply depots, shipyards. The humans were not just attacking. They were systematically destroying the Kreth's ability to make war. "They planned this," Thrak whispered. "They planned every detail. They know exactly where our weak points are." He ordered a general mobilization. Every Kreth fleet in the Empire was to converge on the human advance. But his empire was vast, and his ships were scattered. It would take weeks for them to gather, weeks that the humans would use to continue their destruction. Admiral Morrison led his fleet deeper into Kreth space. Every day brought new victories. The humans were relentless. They attacked around the clock, never giving the Kreth time to organize a proper defense. When Kreth reinforcements arrived at one location, the humans were already gone, hitting another target somewhere else. The strategy was simple, but devastating. Morrison was not trying to hold territory. He was not trying to conquer. He was trying to destroy. Every Kreth ship he killed was one less ship that could threaten human colonies. Every factory he bombed was one less factory producing weapons. Every supply depot he raided was resources the Kreth could never use. The Kreth had never faced an enemy like this. Their previous victims had tried to defend their homeworlds. They had stayed in one place and waited for the Kreth to come to them. Humanity did the opposite. Humanity came to the Kreth, fast, aggressive, unstoppable. Vice Admiral Diana Park led a strike force against a major Kreth shipyard. Her group consisted of 50,000 ships. The shipyard was defended by 10,000 Kreth vessels. It should have been a difficult fight. It lasted 3 hours. Diana commanded from the bridge of her cruiser, the Vengeance. She watched as her ships tore through the Kreth defenses. The enemy fought with desperation, but desperation was not enough against overwhelming numbers and superior tactics. "Target the construction bays," Diana ordered. "I want nothing left that can build ships." Her vessels obeyed. Missiles and energy beams slammed into the massive shipyard structures. Explosions blossomed in the darkness of space. Half-built Kreth warships tumbled into the void, their hulls torn open. When it was over, Diana surveyed the destruction. Floating debris stretched for thousands of kilometers. Nothing remained of the shipyard that had produced Kreth warships for 500 years. She thought of her father, Lieutenant Park. He had died defending New Eden with only 2 small patrol ships. Now his daughter commanded 50,000 warships and had just destroyed one of the enemy's most important military facilities. "This is for you, Father," she whispered. "This is for all of them." Back on the Kreth home world, panic was spreading. Reports of destruction came in every hour. The humans seemed to be everywhere at once. Kreth citizens who had lived their entire lives believing their species was invincible were now learning that they were wrong. High Commander Thrak finally gathered enough ships for a major counterattack. 300,000 Kreth warships assembled near the colony world of Kreth Secundus. It was the largest Kreth fleet in generations. Thrak commanded it personally from his flagship, the Pride of Vexar. "The humans are advancing toward this sector," his aide reported. "Our scouts estimate their main fleet at approximately 500,000 ships." Thrak allowed himself a moment of hope. 300,000 against 500,000. Bad odds, but not impossible. The Kreth were experienced warriors. Their ships were powerful. Perhaps they could turn this disaster around. "Prepare for battle," he commanded. "Today we show these humans that the Kreth are not so easily defeated." The 2 fleets met in open space between the stars. It was the largest naval battle the galaxy had ever seen. 300,000 Kreth ships against 500,000 human vessels. The result would decide the fate of both species. Admiral Morrison watched the Kreth fleet approach. His tactical officers were feeding him data about enemy positions and formations. The Kreth were using their traditional attack pattern, a massive frontal assault designed to break through the enemy line. "They still think this is going to be like their other wars," Morrison observed. "They still think they can just charge at us and win through brute force." "Shall I give the order to engage, Admiral?" Diana asked. Morrison shook his head. "Not yet. Let them come to us. Let them commit fully to their attack. Then we spring the trap." The Kreth fleet charged forward. Their ships accelerated to maximum speed, weapons charging for the first devastating volley. High Commander Thrak stood on his bridge, watching the humans grow larger on his view screen. Soon they would clash. Soon he would have his revenge for all the destruction the humans had caused. He never saw the 200,000 human ships that had circled around behind his fleet. Morrison had split his forces. 300,000 ships faced the Kreth directly. 200,000 had hidden in the shadow of a nearby gas giant, waiting for the right moment. When the Kreth committed to their attack, those hidden ships emerged and struck from behind. The Kreth fleet was caught between 2 forces. Their neat formation dissolved into chaos as ships tried to turn and face the new threat. But turning a warship takes time, and the humans gave them no time. Fire poured in from both directions. Thrak screamed orders that no one could follow. His beautiful fleet was being torn apart around him. Ships exploded. Hulls cracked open. Kreth warriors who had never known defeat died by the thousands, then by the tens of thousands. The battle lasted 12 hours. When it was over, the Kreth fleet was destroyed, all 300,000 ships. High Commander Thrax's flagship was found drifting without power, its hull breached in 100 places. Thrax himself was dead, killed when a human missile struck his bridge. Morrison surveyed the battlefield. Debris and bodies floated everywhere. His own losses were significant. 80,000 human ships destroyed, 2 million human lives lost. But the Kreth had lost everything. "Send a message to Earth," Morrison said quietly. "Tell them the main Kreth fleet is destroyed. We are advancing on their homeworld." The news of Thrax's defeat spread quickly through the Kreth Empire. For the first time in thousands of years, the Kreth knew what it felt like to be the prey instead of the predator. Their greatest commander was dead, their largest fleet was gone, and the human armada was still coming, still destroying everything in its path. Some Kreth commanders tried to organize resistance. They gathered what ships they could and made last stands against the advancing humans. They fought bravely. Many of them died with honor. But it made no difference. The humans were too many, too angry, too determined. The Kreth Council met in emergency session. Some members argued for surrender. Perhaps the humans would show mercy. Perhaps they could negotiate some kind of peace. Others argued for continued resistance. The Kreth were a proud species. They would rather die than submit to lesser beings. In the end, the debate did not matter. The humans were not coming to negotiate. They were not coming to accept surrender. They were coming to deliver justice for New Eden, and nothing in the galaxy was going to stop them. The Terran fleet approached Vexar Prime, the Kreth homeworld. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the Retribution and studied the planet on his view screen. It was a large world, slightly bigger than Earth. Brown and gray continents, dark oceans, massive cities that stretched across entire land masses. This was the heart of an empire that had murdered countless species. This was the place where the order to destroy New Eden had been given. 600,000 human ships now surrounded the planet. 100,000 had been lost in the campaign, but those losses had been worth it. The Kreth war machine was shattered. Their fleets were destroyed. Their military infrastructure was in ruins. The only thing left was their home world. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the surface," reported the communications officer. "The Kreth Council wishes to discuss surrender terms." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Put it through." A Kreth face appeared on the main view screen. It was an old creature, its scales faded with age. Morrison recognized it from intelligence files. Grand Counselor Veth, the highest civilian authority in the Kreth Empire. "Human Commander," Veth said. His voice was strained. "We wish to end this war. We are prepared to offer significant concessions. Territory, resources, technology. Name your price for peace." Morrison was quiet for a moment. He thought about New Eden. He thought about 12,000 people who had just wanted to live peaceful lives. He thought about Sarah Chen's final message. He thought about all the species the Kreth had exterminated over thousands of years. "Tell me something, Grand Counselor," Morrison said slowly. "When the 17 species you destroyed asked for mercy, did you give it to them?" Veth hesitated. "That was different. Those were lesser beings. They were unworthy of existence." "Unworthy," Morrison repeated. 12,000 innocent humans on New Eden, farmers, teachers, children. Were they unworthy? I was not the one who gave that order. High Commander Thrax acted without full council approval. He has paid for his mistakes. Thrax is dead. That is true. But he did not act alone. Your species built an empire on genocide. You murdered entire civilizations and called it purification. You destroyed our colony to send us a message. You wanted us to be afraid. You wanted us to know that resistance was useless." Morrison leaned forward. "We received your message, Grand Counselor. Now receive ours. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. And humanity does not negotiate with those who murder our people. He cut the transmission. Vice Admiral Diana Park stepped forward. What are your orders, Admiral? Morrison took a deep breath. This next part would be the hardest. The decision he was about to make would echo through history. Some would call him a hero. Others would call him a monster. He did not care about any of that. He cared only about justice. The Kreth Council has rejected our terms, he announced to the bridge. The crew knew this was not true. The Kreth had not been given terms. But they also knew why. They had all seen the images of New Eden. They had all lost friends and family in the campaign. They understood. Target the military installations on the surface, power stations, weapon factories, defense systems, everything that allows the Kreth to make war. The bombardment began. 600,000 ships opened fire on Vexar Prime. Energy beams and missiles rained down on the planet. Military bases exploded. Factories burned. Defense satellites were blown out of orbit. The Kreth anti-space weapons tried to fire back, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of incoming fire. The bombardment lasted 3 days. When it was over, the Kreth military capability was completely destroyed. Their army had no equipment. Their navy had no ships. Their scientists had no laboratories. Everything they had used to conquer and exterminate was gone. But Morrison did not destroy the cities. He did not target the civilian areas. He could have. It would have been easy. One order, and the Kreth species would have followed all their victims into extinction. He chose not to. Why? Diana asked him later when the bombardment was over. After everything they did, why spare them? Morrison looked out the window at the scarred planet below. Because we are not them. The Kreth destroyed species because they believed they had the right to judge who was worthy of existence. If we do the same thing, we become no better than they are. They would have killed every last human if they had won. Yes. And that is why they lost. Because they fought for conquest and extermination. We fought for justice and protection. Those are different things. If we forget that difference, then the Kreth have truly won, even in defeat. Diana was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. What happens now? Now we make sure they can never threaten anyone again. We will occupy their space. We will monitor their activities. We will disarm them completely. The Kreth Dominion is finished as a galactic power. They will survive, but they will never again have the ability to harm another species. The occupation of Kreth space took months to complete. Human troops landed on Vexar Prime and 100 other Kreth worlds. They took control of government buildings and military installations. They destroyed weapons and war machines. They established monitoring stations to ensure the Kreth could never rebuild their military. The Kreth population was stunned. For thousands of years, they had been the masters of the galaxy. Now they were a defeated people, occupied by creatures they had considered inferior. Some Kreth tried to resist, small groups of fighters who refused to accept defeat. They were hunted down and captured or killed. Most Kreth, however, simply accepted their new reality. They had no choice. Their leaders were dead or imprisoned. Their military was gone. Their empire was in ruins. All they could do was survive and hope that the humans would eventually leave. Admiral Morrison returned to Earth as a hero. Crowds lined the streets to welcome him home. The President herself met him at the spaceport and gave him the highest military honor the Federation could bestow. But Morrison did not feel like celebrating. He thought about the 2 million humans who had died in the campaign. He thought about the 80,000 ships that would never return home. He thought about the families who had lost sons and daughters, fathers and mothers. Was it worth it? A reporter asked him at the ceremony. 2 million lives lost to avenge 12,000? Morrison considered the question carefully. When the Kreth attacked New Eden, they were testing us. They wanted to see how we would react. They expected us to cower. They expected us to beg for mercy. They expected us to let them kill our people without consequence. He paused. If we had done that, the Kreth would have come for the rest of us. Colony by colony, world by world. They would not have stopped until humanity was extinct. By fighting back, by showing them that we would pay any price to protect our people, we saved not just ourselves but future generations. The 2 million who died are heroes. They gave their lives so that billions more could live. The reporter nodded but pushed further. Some are saying you should have completely destroyed the Kreth, made them extinct like they did to so many others. Why did you stop? Morrison smiled sadly. Because that is not who we are. The Kreth killed because they believed might makes right. They believe that superior power gives you the right to destroy those weaker than yourself. We proved our power. We proved it beyond any doubt. But we also proved something else. We proved that humans can be strong without being cruel. We can be victorious without becoming monsters. That is the lesson we wanted the galaxy to learn. The galaxy did learn. News of the war spread to every species in known space. The Kreth had been feared for thousands of years. Now they were broken, defeated by a species that had not even achieved spaceflight 2 centuries ago. The Veltari traders carried the story to the far reaches of the galaxy. The details grew in the telling. 700,000 ships, a campaign of relentless destruction, the complete defeat of an empire that had seemed invincible. But what impressed the other species most was not the violence. It was the restraint. The humans had won total victory. They could have exterminated the Kreth without anyone to stop them. Instead, they had shown mercy. Harsh mercy, but mercy nonetheless. The humans are strange, a Veltari philosopher wrote. They value every life among their own species so highly that they will unleash total war to avenge even a small colony. But when they win, they do not slaughter their enemies. They stop. They rebuild. They try to create a galaxy where such wars are not necessary. I do not understand them. But I know one thing for certain. I never want to be their enemy. Other species took note. Empires that had been considering expansion into human space quietly changed their plans. Species that had looked at humanity as potential prey suddenly saw them as potential allies. Ambassadors arrived on Earth seeking friendship and trade agreements. President Vasquez welcomed them all. The federation that emerged from the war was stronger than ever. New alliances were formed. New trade routes opened. Humanity's place in the galaxy was secured not just by military might, but by the respect they had earned from other species. 5 years after the war, a memorial was built on New Eden. The planet had been cleaned of the ash and poison. New plants were beginning to grow. The air was becoming breathable again. Someday, humans would return to live there. The memorial stood on the spot where Commander Sarah Chen's command center had been. It was a simple structure, a wall of black stone with 12,000 names carved into it. Every person who had died on New Eden, every life that had been lost. Admiral Morrison attended the dedication ceremony. He was older now, his hair completely gray. He had retired from the Navy, but remained an important advisor to the government. When asked to speak, he walked slowly to the podium. These 12,000 people did not die as warriors, he said quietly. They were not soldiers or fighters. They were farmers and teachers and children. They lived quiet lives on a quiet world. They wanted nothing more than peace. He paused, looking at the names on the wall. When the Kreth came, they could not fight back. They had no weapons, no warships, no army. But they did not surrender either. Commander Chen and her small garrison fought to the last. The civilians ran to the shelters and hoped for rescue that never came. They died afraid and alone. Morrison's voice grew stronger. We could not save them. That failure will haunt us forever, but we could honor them. We could show the galaxy that their deaths had meaning. 700,000 ships sailed to war because of these 12,000 people. 2 million soldiers gave their lives. The mightiest empire in the galaxy was brought to its knees. He turned to face the crowd. This is the promise of humanity. This is what we stand for. No matter how small the colony, no matter how far from Earth, if you are human, you are protected. If you are killed, you will be avenged. We are one species, one family. We stand together, or we fall together. There is no other way. The crowd was silent. Many were crying. Morrison stepped back from the podium and saluted the memorial wall. Every officer in attendance saluted with him. Somewhere in the distance, a horn began to sound. It was the traditional signal of mourning in the Terran Navy. 12,000 notes, one for each person who had died. It would take hours to complete. No one left until the last note faded into silence. On Vexar Prime, a young Kreth named Thrak the Younger stood before his people. He was the grandson of the High Commander who had ordered the attack on New Eden. He had grown up hearing stories of Kreth glory, of the species they had conquered, of the empire they had built. Now that empire was gone. The humans still maintained their occupation. Kreth children grew up seeing human soldiers in their streets, human ships in their skies. They learned to speak the human language. They studied human history. They tried to understand the species that had defeated them. Thrak the Younger had devoted his life to that understanding. He had read everything he could find about humanity, their wars and their peacemaking, their cruelty and their compassion, their capacity for both destruction and creation. My grandfather thought humans were weak, he said to the assembly. He thought their love for each other was a flaw. He believed that a species that mourned for 12,000 deaths would never have the strength to fight a real war. He shook his head. He was wrong. That love was not a weakness. It was their greatest strength. They fought not for conquest or glory. They fought for each other. Every human soldier knew they were fighting to protect their families, their friends, their species. That is why they won. That is why we lost. Thrak the Younger looked at the human observers sitting in the back of the room. They watched him with neutral expressions. They did not interfere with Kreth politics. They only ensured that the Kreth never rebuilt their military. We cannot change the past, Thrak the Younger continued. We cannot undo what our ancestors did, but we can learn from it. We can become a different species, a better species. Not because the humans force us to, but because it is the right thing to do. Some in the audience nodded. Others looked skeptical. Change would take time, generations perhaps. But it had to start somewhere. My grandfather sent 47 ships to destroy a human colony, Thrak the Younger concluded. He thought he was sending a message of strength. Instead, he taught the galaxy a different lesson. Do not attack humans. Do not threaten their people. Do not mistake their kindness for weakness. Because when humanity goes to war, they go to war with everything they have, and no empire in the galaxy can stand against them. Far away, on 1,000 different worlds, other species told their children the same story. The story of New Eden. The story of 700,000 ships. The story of a species that valued every life so much that they would burn an empire to protect it. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through conquest or domination, but through a simple promise kept. We protect our own, always, no matter the cost. And in the depths of space where no one could hear, the stars themselves seemed to whisper a warning to anyone who might forget. Do not touch the humans. They remember. They always remember.